Okay, morning year 11. We are talking about Ligeia today. In sort of detail, what we'll be looking at is one of the poems by
جوعان بس هذا القندرة.
by Allan Poe. So we will make a start. So year 11, if I could get you to turn to your Ligeia booklets, and I will direct you to the correct page. If you go to your booklet, all right, Monty, that's enough. If you go over to your booklet, we are looking at the third page. That looks like this, just above the poem. And we are starting at the paragraph that she loved. So quite close to the bottom, just before we hit that poem. Are we all there?
Yes.
Thanks, Isra. Okay.
Yeah, we're there.
Thanks, guys. All right, so let's make a start. I'm just going to read it out to you. We'll read just that paragraph. I will stop. We'll do a little bit of a PowerPoint lesson. I'll read the poem, and then we'll go back into the PowerPoint, okay? So I'll start now. That she loved me, I should not have doubted. And I might have been easily aware that in a bosom such as hers, love would have reigned no ordinary passion. But in death only was I fully impressed with the strength of her affection. For long hours, detaining my hand, would she pour out before me the overflowing of a heart, whose more than passionate devotion amounted to adultery. How had I deserved to be so blessed by such confessions? How had I deserved to be so cursed with the removal of my beloved in the hour of her making them? But upon this subject I cannot bear to dilate. Let me say only that in Ligeia's more than womanly abandonment to a love, alas, all unmerited, all unworthily bestowed, I at length recognized the principle of her longing with so wildly earnest a desire for the life which was now fleeing so rapidly away. In this wild longing, it is the eager vehemence of desire for life, but for life that I have no power to portray, no utterance capable of expressing. At high noon of the night in which she departed, beckoning me peremptorily to her side, she bade me repeat certain verses composed by herself not many days before. I obeyed her. They were these. What's happening? What's happening to Ligeia?
He killed
She's
her.
dead.
Well, she's dying. She's not dead yet, but yeah,
Oh.
she's in the process of dying.
She confesses her love for him.
Yeah, absolutely, Isra. And she, what's interesting is that she waits till the very last moment of her life to do this. The narrator is like surprised, is like, it's only when she's about to die does he for the first time hear how much she loves him.
What is she gonna die from again? Like, is it a disease or something?
We don't know. So
I thought he killed her.
Oh.
well, once again, we don't know, Israel. Like, it's very possible that our crazy opium-addled narrator has killed her. Perhaps it is a disease, but all we know is that she's dying. It's unexplained, which makes it all the more dodgy. So year 11, I'm going to share my screen with you. We're going to look at 3 different pictures. We're going to consider one of the most interesting parts of this story, and then we're going to go read this poem, okay? So sharing screen, okay. I started talking about this yesterday, but I didn't quite finish, so I might start again. Can everyone see the image on the screen?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. So what we're looking at is Circe. Circe is a demigod in the ancient Greek story, the Odyssey. So really quick history lesson. Odysseus was one of the historical and mythical figures in the Trojan War. which is that story with the Greeks and the big horse that go into the city and kill everyone, that I'm sure people have heard before. Odysseus was the mastermind. He's the one who suggested the horse. After they win the war, Odysseus goes back home to Greece. And the Odyssey, which is a Homeric story, a story written by Homer, and Homer is actually mentioned in our story, in Ligeia, he goes into an island and he meets this woman that I'm pointing at, Circe. And Circe is a witch. They don't call her a witch, but many believe that she is one of the first witches in literature. If I showed you that picture and I said that's Ligeia, would you believe me?
Yeah.
And this is when we start thinking about the supernatural versus the natural. Circe is described to have raven black hair, red lips, pale skin, the power to enchant men, but ultimately would turn them into animals and keep animals in her menagerie. So if you look closely at the bottom right-hand corner of just near her feet, you can see a pig there. You can see a pig behind her mirror. You can see Odysseus in the mirror itself. What Circe would do is feed you the wine that she's holding in her hand. She's got a wand in her other hand, and she would enchant you and turn you into an animal. She was essentially a witch. So let me show you now an artist's depiction of Ligeia. The pale
Whoa,
skin,
that's scary.
the black hair, the orb eyes, the red lips. Once again, another artist's depiction of Ligeia. Once again, noting the black hair, obviously the pale skin, the coloured lips, that really kind of gothic element, and the narrator there worshipping her. Let's look at one more. Our titular character, Ligeia. Once again, it's the same things. It is the black hair, the pale skin. And so if I just quickly go backwards so you can see all of these images, bang, bang, bang. Go back forwards. I want you to have a think about this, yeah? Is this story about a real person? Is Ligeia a real person? And perhaps all of the weird things that will happen are based on the narrator's opium addiction? Or is this a story about the supernatural? Is this actually a story about a witch? About an enchantress? About someone like Circe with the power to enchant men and take power over them? So you don't have to answer now, but this is a really interesting way to think about Ligeia. Is she natural or is she supernatural? Is she just a person who dies, or is she a witch trying to beat death?
So what if it's a witch, right? Who's trying to convince the guy to be with her, because if he's not with her, she might die.
All of these are reasonable answers. Once again, Edgar Allan Poe, remember, he is an interesting character and creates really interesting stories. So the short story itself hasn't gotten into the horror portion of it yet, but it will soon. At the moment, it's all been quite lovey-dovey, describing Ligeia, how much he loves her, but nothing super weird has happened. In the second half of the story, it gets super, super weird.
So you know what confused me?
Yeah.
Like halfway through this page, he talks about I saw that she must die, and I struggled desperately in spirit with the grim Azrael. And then he talks about his wife. So is he fighting with that person and his wife?
No. So let me just find that
I
part.
couldn't understand it.
So can you repeat that line for me, Isra?
I saw that she must die, and I struggled desperately in spirit with the grim Azrael, and of the gentle emotion and now I'm confused. Okay, wait.
Okay. So whereabouts on the page is it, Isra?
It's like halfway.
Okay. I saw that she must die, and I struggled desperately in spirit with the grim Azrael, and the struggles of the passionate wife here, to my astonishment, even more energetic than my own. Does anyone know what Azrael refers to?
No.
He's an archangel. So Azrael's a biblical angel, an archangel. Azrael is said to have control over life and death in heaven and hell.
Oh,
so
Amenadiel, like,
so
right?
Azrael in this sense is kind of, you can think of him as the Grim Reaper. So he's struggling with the permanency of death here. And the struggles of the passionate wife here were, to my astonishment, even more energetic than my own. So his passionate wife, still Ligeia, she is also struggling with death. She's trying to fight the grim Azrael. She's trying to beat death. I'm actually really happy you asked that question, Isra, because this becomes so important later on in the book, like towards like the very end, this we'll talk about. So really, really good question.
So they're not actual people.
Well, Azrael's not an actual person, absolutely not. I mean, Azrael is the embodiment of death in this sense. But obviously the narrator and the wife, Ligeia, are real people, maybe. The narrator's definitely real, but perhaps Ligeia isn't, who knows? And that's the beauty of Edgar Allan Poe. He never lets you know anything. You're always guessing. You're always second guessing yourself.
Yeah.
All right, so Year 11, I'm going to stop this screen share and we're just going to read this poem, okay? It's probably the most depressing poem ever. It's super short. It's like an easy read, but it sucks. So let's have a read.
So yeah. what if he's not real, but the woman is? What if the woman's mind controlling him?
Well, that would be totally freaky. And think of the idea, yeah? Like with Edgar Allan Poe, that's what he wants you to do. He wants you to think of every possibility. He wants you to think of all of the ways in which reality can be questioned. So I'm going to read out this poem. It's only 5 stanzas. I'm going to read it all the way through once. Then I'll read it again and break some things down. And then we'll do back to the PowerPoint and then you'll do a writing activity for me. Okay? Good? Also, just let me know if it starts lagging, guys. Generally, I can just wait a couple of seconds and it becomes a bit better. So I'll start reading now. Lo, 'tis a gala night. Within the lonesome latter years, an angel throng, bewinged, benight, in veils and drowned in tears, sit in a theatre to see a play of hopes and fears, while the orchestra breathes fitfully the music of the spheres. Mind in the form of God on high, mutter and mumble below. And hither and thither fly, mere puppets they who come and go, at bidding of vast formless things that shift the scenery to and fro, flapping from out their condor wings, invisible woe. That motley drama, oh be sure, it shall not be forgot, with its phantom chase forevermore by a crowd that sees it not, through a circle that ever returneth in to the self-same spot, and much of madness and more of sin and horror, the soul of the plot. But see amid the mimic rout a crawling shape intrude, a blood-red thing that writhes from out the scenic solitude. It writhes with mortal pangs, the mimes become its food, and the seraphs sob at vermin fangs, in human gore imbued. Out are the lights, out all, and over each quivering form, the curtain of funeral pall. Come down with the rush of a storm, and the angels, all pallid and wan. Uprising, unveiling, affirm. The play is the tragedy, man, and the hero, its conqueror worm. Did anyone understand that poem?
No.
So you were just saying random words.
Okay, let me explain the poem. It is an amazing one once you kind of get it. So can I just get everyone to turn back to the start, and I'll break down little bits and pieces of it, okay? So it's actually a really simple poem once you understand the structure. So first stanza. Lo, 'tis a gala night with lonesome latter years, an angel throng bewinged benight in veils and drowned in tears. There is a play, gala night. So you might have heard of a gala. A gala is a play or like a theatre, and the attendees of the play are angels. So I want you to imagine a play, like, you know, a theatre, and the people watching this play are angels, yeah? In veils and drowned in tears, sit in the theatre to see a play of hope and fears. So it's literally a bunch of angels going to see a play about hopes and fears. Make sense?
Yes.
Yeah? Thank you. You have to reply, otherwise it's weird because it just sounds like I'm talking to myself. So thank you, Israel. Everyone else, talk to me, please. So what we have is a play, and angels are watching the play. All right. Next.
Okay. Yeah.
Mimes in the form of God on high. So this is a puppet play. Yeah. So mimes. So mimes are things that can't speak. They can't, you know. So they kind of just do this sort of thing. The mimes in form of God on high. If you're familiar with the Bible, God made man in his form. So when Edgar Allan Poe says mimes in the form of God on high, he's saying mimes in the form of man. So angels are watching. The characters in the play are humans. They're people, but they're mimes. They can't speak. Okay? So turn the page for me. Mere puppets they who come and go, at bidding of vast formless things. They shift the scenery to and fro. So how does a puppet work? Like can you just have a puppet moving by itself?
No, it has to be manipulated by an outside force.
Has to be manipulated, yeah? So now, once again, we have our theatre, our play, we have our angels watching. Now inside we have our puppets. Our puppets are representing humanity, but we can't just have puppets. We need this puppeteer, this puppet master controlling everything. So the angels are literally watching a puppet play about humans. Let's keep going.
That's weird.
And it gets weirder. The motley drama, oh be sure, it shall not be forgot, with its phantom chased forevermore by a crowd that sees it not, through a circle that ever returneth in to the self-same spot, and much of madness and more of sin and horror, the soul of the plot. This is describing what's happening in the play. They're just running around. The puppets are literally just running around. They are, with its phantom chased forevermore. They're just chasing a ghost. All of these puppets are just running around chasing something that they can never catch by a crowd that sees it not. So you can't see it, literally you can't see it, and you can't catch it. This is literally the play. So once again, play, angels watching, puppets, puppet master, what's happening in the play, puppets are just running around in circles trying to catch something.
That does not exist.
Okay, this is my favorite part of the play, all right? But see amid the mimic rout a crawling shape intrude, a blood-red thing that writhes from out the scenic solitude. It writhes with mortal pangs, the mimes become its food, and the seraphs sob at vermin fangs, in human gore imbued. What just happened? Can anyone understand what just happened?
Blood.
There is blood involved. Anything else? I'm just going to start calling on people. Isra, are you saying something at the moment?
Is it a murder?
There is a murder involved. Hold on, Darren. Is that you, Kamel?
No, it's Tan.
Oh, Tan. So what do you think's happening?
Oh, isn't he describing death? How someone's dying in golden.
He's describing death. What's killing everyone?
The poison. I don't know.
Like literally, what is killed everyone just then? It's in the first line, yeah? Or in the second line. A crawling shape intrude, a blood red thing, yeah? So even though we don't physically know what it is, this blood red thing has come out and it's killed everyone. What did it do with the bodies? How did it kill everyone? How did it kill the minds?
The mimes became its food. It ate them.
So this
Yo.
So, once again, we've got this play, angels are watching, mimes are running around, and all of a sudden this gigantic red thing, a blood red thing, writhes and just eats all the mimes.
He just made them their lunch, bro.
Yeah, just
damn.
And the seraphs sob at vermin fangs. Seraphs are the angels. It's a fancy word for angels. So the angels are up there watching this play. They're crying. What kind of play is it? Comedy or tragedy?
Tragedy.
It looks like a tragedy.
Yeah, it's a tragedy. All right, let's read the last paragraph.
So what was the fancy name for an angel again?
Seraph. S-E-R-A-P-H.
That would be a good gamer name. Damn, bro. Meaning it's boy, you know?
Let's just read the very last stanza. Out are the lights out all, and over each quivering form. The curtain, a funeral pall, comes down with the rush of the storm. So this is the curtain closing, yeah? So like the play is ending. And that angels, all pallid and worm, uprising, unveiling, affirm. So the angels are leaving, the play is over. And these last two lines are super important. That the play is the tragedy, man, and its hero, the Conqueror Worm. So the thing that killed everyone is the Conqueror Worm. Why is the Conqueror Worm the hero?
Because it ended their misery, probably.
Yeah, perhaps. I might just call on a couple of other people. Darren, are you there? Can you hear me?
Yes.
So Darren, why do you think the Conqueror Worm is the hero? Remember, the Conqueror Worm is just the thing that killed everyone. What do you think Edgar Allan Poe is saying in that the Conqueror Worm is the hero?
The mimes did something wrong.
Perhaps, yeah. That's a good point to have. Anyone else want to throw in their 5 cents? Marissa, do you want to throw in an opinion about the hero and the Conqueror Worm? Can Marissa hear me? All right. What I'm going to do, guys, is we will jump back into the PowerPoint. So I'm going to share the screen again. Can I just ask that you have something to write a couple of things down? If not, that's okay, because I'll just upload this PowerPoint anyway, guys. So we're going on to the PowerPoint now. And can everyone say that?
Yes.
Okay, thanks, guys. All right, so just moving to this. We're going to have a look at this poem, and then we're going to do some writing activities on it. Okay, so this poem, this is a little bit in the way. Let me just move this. In her dying breaths, Ligeia, that's wrong. Ligeia doesn't recite the poem. Ligeia wrote the poem, and she asked the narrator to read it out. So he reads out this poem known as called the Conqueror Worm.
Do you write this?
Do you write this?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Yeah, no, write this down. I'll just put it up first, guys, and then I'll put this PowerPoint up on Google Classroom as well, okay? Okay, so The Conqueror Worm as a poem seeks to tell the allegorical history of mankind. It is what Edgar Allan Poe sees as the history of humanity.
So what does allegorical mean?
Allegorical just means a comparative story. So if the Conqueror Worm is an allegory, it means it is simply a story that represents the history of mankind.
Okay.
Once again, if that's the case, I mean, obviously Edgar Allan Poe is like super disturbed if that's what he thinks the history of the entire human race is, that we just, we are a show and then we die and the hero is the person that kills us. I mean, that's super scary. But once you start thinking about it in a deeper way than just the narrative, it actually does start to, unfortunately, make a bit of sense. The work acts as a frame story. So what a frame story means is there is an outside frame that is our throng of angels watching a play. So the story isn't about what's happening in the play, it's about the angels, and we're seeing what the angels are seeing. We're not directly seeing it. We are being sort of shared an angel's perspective. The inside frame is that of the play itself. So our outside frame is our angels watching from I guess, the seats, and our inside frame is the play of our minds.
So does throng mean like crowd?
It means, yeah, a group. Yeah, throng is just like a group. I only use that word because that's the word that they use in the poem. Can I move on, guys? Are we okay?
Yes, sir.
Thanks, guys. And once again, you don't have to, you can write it down. You don't have to write everything down because I'll put this PowerPoint up online anyway. It's just more important that we talk about it. And then you can use this PowerPoint to work on a few questions, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So this is a really, this is quite a beautiful image of the poem itself. You can see the angels there. You can see the angels up in the pews, and then we can see down below humanity and the play taking place itself. So let's just analyze it really, really quickly. And I will just kind of say, don't write this down. Let's just talk about it first. This PowerPoint will be up on the Google Classroom, and you're going to use this anyway to answer a few questions for me in about half an hour, in about 10 minutes, actually. So the angels are associated with goodness, as always, and with heaven. And their sorrow provides an early indication that the play will be a tragedy. And one of the first things that happens in the poem is they say, an angel throng, bewinged, bedight in veils and drowned in tears. They're already crying, yeah? So we're already told very quickly, this is not a happy play. This is not a happy poem. As the play progresses to its completion within the poem, we find that humanity, us, is merely a mass of faceless puppets who are victims to the true protagonist. The true hero of this story is the Conqueror Worm, the blood red thing that comes in and kills everyone. That's our hero. That's our protagonist. That's our good guy. There's our Conqueror Worm.
Literally a worm.
Literally a worm, yeah? A blood red thing that writhes and writhes. So I want you to imagine watching this play and you have this massive blood red thing, this worm that comes in and just wreaks havoc on the mind of the puppet. It just eats everything. And when the curtains close, it closes on our hero, the Conqueror Worm. It's pretty messed up, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, what does any of this mean? Let me break it down for you in the most simple possible way. Our lives are tragedies. That's it. And it's as simple as that. The history of humanity is a tragedy. We do a lot more worse things than we do good things. We are born only to die. Like, we are born only to give up our lives. Death is tragic. It is the end of things. And that is the only thing that is certain in our life, that we die. And Edgar Allan Poe was touching on this idea that human existence is tragic. He also touches on the idea that we have no free will. We don't get to choose what we do. And that's that metaphor of the puppets or the mimes being controlled by this puppet master. We might think we have free will, but Edgar Allan Poe would say we don't. We can't choose not to die. A lot of the things that we decide are based on what is socially acceptable. Whilst we might have the idea of free will, we don't choose to exercise it because we're scared of being isolated. So people fit in. We choose to fit in. All of the things that we could choose to do, we generally ignore for the sake of conformity. So our entire lives are tragic. We have no free will. This is my favorite part. The only true hero is death, because death ends the misery of life.
Whoa.
And death is the Conqueror Worm. In our lives, the only true hero is death, is the thing that comes in and ends our pitiful, meaningless existence. Once again, this is Edgar Allan Poe. I'm not saying that this is, real, but this is what the poem is representing. The angels, God is powerless to stop our destruction. The angels sit there and they watch. They cry, but they watch. At no point do they step in. At no point did they do anything but go to a play that they knew was going to be a tragedy and applaud the Conqueror Worm as the hero. God is powerless to stop anything. Most importantly, our death. God can't do anything about that. Our creators created us to die. They, if you believe in God or that kind of creation story, they created humanity, humans, with an end date in mind. Our ultimate goal at the end of our life was to die, and death isn't peaceful. Death is painful. That's on God. God has no power in our death. Once again, it's a super fun poem.
Yes, sure is.
Yeah, it's super, super fun. It's going to make so much more sense later. I don't want to spoil the story, but this poem, the way it's integrated into our story makes so much more sense when at the end of the book, essentially, at the end of our short story, you go, oh, that's why that poem was there. And that's why it's so important for Ligeia.